Okay, so what are we going to look at? We're going to look at GeL grammar, student progress graph options, triggering grammar exercises to the student, course book reference to materials, uploading class lists, and GeL reporting. So first of all, GeL grammar. Now you can set up student progress graphs and you can send exercises to students. So here's an example of a student progress graph, and as you can see, this one's been set up to cover all of the different skills and structures. So when I say progress sliders, I'm talking about this tool here in your customize tutorial page. So you've got lots of little tools here like drop down, and if you click on slider, it will enable you to set up any number of these types of tools, and you can choose whatever title you want. So they don't have to be the names of skills and structures. It could be progress test 1, progress test 2 here, and you can just drag up the level. So the teacher in the tutorial would decide what each slider would be set at. So if we go back to our student progress graph, you can see that, imagine the x-axis showed the dates of the different tutorials, and then the point at which the lines are at would be whatever the teacher adjusts the scales to for each of the skills and structures or for your progress tests. Now you can also set that graph up from can-do statements in the tutorial page. So if you upload your aims or your can-do statements onto the platform, then you get something which looks like this, and you can see here you've got little options like confident in this, and we'll go through those very soon. So if you don't have your can-do statements uploaded, then you won't see a title here. It will say edit title, and this box will appear near the top of your page. So to upload your can-do statements, you'd have to click on the spanner, and then you'd have a little button here saying upload statements, and you can see an example of some statements that we've put on. So all you need to do is just overwrite that with your own statements, and whatever can-do categories you enter and whatever statements you put alongside them will appear here. So these will be the categories that you designated. So if we click on, say for example you put in a grammar can-do category, and these were the statements that you put down with grammar, then in terms of the tutorial, if the teacher and the student decided that the student was now confident in this for say 4 out of 8 possible can-do statements, then that's a total of 50% of all of the can-do statements. So bear in mind that this wouldn't be, all of these can-do statements wouldn't be selected in one tutorial. This would be a gradual process. You might just cover one of these can-do statements or 2 of these can-do statements per tutorial, but over time the number of can-do statements which are confident in this will gradually get more and more and more, which will increase the height of the line on the graph. So for grammar, if we go back here, we can see that 50% at this stage in this tutorial have been set to confident in this. That means for that particular tutorial the y-axis would go up to 50. Now you can also send our grammar lessons, the GeL grammar lessons, to the student study page. So when they click on when they log in and they click on their study tab, they come to this screen here and they'll see lessons waiting for them. So where do these lessons come from? Well, you can actually assign our grammar lessons to each can-do statement, and the way it works is this. Say for example you've got a Japanese student who's finding that they can't really use articles that well. So you've got this can-do statement here about articles, and you decide with the student that the student needs more practice. As soon as you click this to needs more practice, then whatever lessons you've attached to that particular statement will be sent to Akiko's study page. So the way you attach the lessons will be like this. So say for example we use 0 and first conditional grammar lessons, so we want to attach some lessons to this particular statement. So you click on set playlist, and then this is pre-populated with the level of the tutorial, the category of can-do statement, and also the can-do statement itself. And then you can just search for suitable lessons at a suitable level to attach to that particular statement. So here, for example, we've typed in first conditional, and then you get lots of lessons that appear. You can preview them by clicking on them, and you'll come to a screen like this. And if you want to use that lesson, then you just set it. So once you've chosen your lessons, you can obviously set more than one, combine them together into a little playlist, then you click on Save and Set. So now when the teacher clicks on Needs More Practice for this particular can-do statement, those lessons will go to the study page of the student. Now bear in mind that if you're going to set up can-do statements and you're going to attach lessons to all of the can-do statements, that's quite a lengthy process. So we realised that if you feel you don't have enough time, then you can outsource that work to us for a fee, so we can discuss that. That's an option that you've got. Now if you don't have aims or can-do statements, there's a quick way for teachers to ping lessons to the student. So in the tutorial, all schools have this teacher options section. So when they go to the playlist category, this little search box will open up. Imagine if Jose is having a tutorial and he decides that he really can't get to grips with the present perfect or whatever using will. You just type in the grammar point here, the teacher would type it in here, and then the corresponding lessons would appear, and you just combine them together, and then the next time that student logs in, they will get those lessons on their study page. Okay, now you can also set lessons in the assignments section. So you click on Add a new assignment. So you've got all of the usual assignment pages here, like resource page, FC exam practice, etc., etc. But also now you've got a playlist section. So this will enable you to set up the lessons from our grammar bank. Now bear in mind, all of our GeL Aims grammar lessons have all been mapped for the top 6 course books. So they'll follow what the student's doing in class. So if you wanted to find a suitable lesson to give to your class as an assignment, this is what a teacher would do. They'd just choose the grammar point and then combine lessons together, or they can go to existing playlists and set those instead. Now, ideally, you'd have your class lists on the platform, which means that the student wouldn't have to go in and find their teacher's name and then find the assignments. There's a quick way of doing it. By uploading your class list onto the platform, the teacher who sets the assignment can assign it to their particular class only. So only those students in that class will then see that assignment on their study page when they click on this little tab here. So what you need to know is how to put your class list onto the platform. So if you decide that that's something you want to do, then just contact me and we'll put that onto your platform for you. So now let's just go through briefly how you do that. So we'd have this section here called Update Classing. You click on that and then you'd upload a spreadsheet. Now the spreadsheet is a very, very simple class export. So you just export this from whatever you're using, class, theming, intrinsic, etc. And all you need to put on is the surname, first name, student code and class name. Now all of this is in our quick start guide, but this just gives you a brief overview of what to do. So it's a simple export. You probably do the same thing every week when you export your levers lists. So you just save this kind of export, and then when you want to make changes to it, you can just export it again and edit it. So imagine that a teacher has set their assignment. This time, once you've got your class list on the platform, they'll have this drop-down box and they'll just pick and choose. They'll just choose their class of students, and as I said, only those students will get that assignment, and they'll be able to get it without having to click on the teacher's name. They'll get that automatically when they click on their study page. Another benefit of putting your class list on the platform is for when to know, when you do a tutorial, to know who actually needs one and who doesn't, and also to give you quick access to either finish off a tutorial or to actually start a brand new one. So when the teacher does a tutorial, on the staff page they'll click on Do a Tutorial, and then they'll be taken to this screen here, and if you have your class list uploaded, they'll have this drop down here, so they can just choose their particular class, and then they get a whole list of their students, and then they can see the status of each one. So if you don't have this, then what DOSes have done before is print out a whole long list of every single student in the school, and then maybe put it into the teacher's office on the whiteboard, and then the teachers have to sift through to find their students to see when they last had a tutorial. So that's quite a long-winded process, but this way the DOS doesn't need to do a thing. The teacher just clicks on do a tutorial, chooses their class, finds their students here automatically, and then they can choose to do a tutorial, a new one, by clicking on the student's name, or to finish off a tutorial that the student started by clicking here in the last column. So another benefit is if you haven't had a chance to put your progress tests onto the platform, or maybe you feel that you just don't have enough computers for all of the students to do their progress tests in the same week, what you can do is manually input the test scores if you have your class lists uploaded. So we'll put a little link saying manually upload your test scores, and then the teacher can just go in and choose their particular class. So you can see here the students will all appear, and then the teacher can just give the test a name. They can choose 3 different kinds of score units, so it could be percentage, it could be out of something, or it could be like an IELTS band, so 1 to 9. So obviously you can use this for examination classes as well. And then the teacher just inputs the scores. Those scores will then be in the platform, so you can run reports on them. Also, the scores will appear with the name of the test on the student's timeline. So as I said before, that's another benefit of uploading your class lists. And if you want to know the steps of setting that up, have a look at our quick start guide, which you can see here at the top of the platform in the top menu. If that's something you want to do, just contact me and we'll put that function on your platform for you. Okay, so talking about tests can also relate to GeL Aims, because you can set up tests so that you can assign our grammar materials to each question, and then when a student gets a question wrong, whatever lessons you've assigned to that particular question will automatically go to that student's study page. So the way it works would be something like this. So here would be the lessons relating to the questions that the student got wrong. If you want to find out in detail how to set this up, so for example how to assign the lessons, maybe how to input some study recommendations as well to go with the lesson links, click on the How To section and go to GeL Aims Testing, and there's a video on how to set that up. It's also in our quick start guide as well. So here's an example of a progress test. So the student would do the progress test, and then they would get your whatever study recommendations you'd entered, and then this would be the grammar link to the lesson on their study page. Then the student could view their answers, and they can see what they've got right and what they've got wrong. So it's all automated, it's all set up initially at the beginning, and the great thing about it is that whatever the students' weaknesses are, whatever questions they get wrong, they will receive work to help them to improve on their weak areas. So it's a very, very quick way of responding to students' weaknesses, and the teacher doesn't have to go away and photocopy work for each individual student. Plus, the teacher will get the results of all of their students automatically on the platform, so it's all automated. So if you click on our walkthrough section, you can see various scenarios in which you might want to use that function. Okay, now as I mentioned before, our grammar materials in GeL Aims are all mapped out to be linked to the top 6 course books being used at schools at the moment. So that's Cutting Edge 3rd edition, English File 3rd edition, Straightforward, Speak Out, Total English and New Inside Out. Now if you use books that aren't in that list, it's not a problem. You can just use our grammar materials and create your own coursebook playlist. So say for example if you're using Life or Face to Face, which I know are also quite popular at schools, you can just select the lessons and create the units to make a playlist for a level of life. Okay, so here's a prototype of what we're planning. I mean, bear in mind this is at the, it's quite a simple display and interface at the moment. We're actually designing something which looks a bit more appealing to the student, but bear with me. If you click on this drop down here, you can see how it works. So the student would have access to this. So maybe they've been studying English file intermediate in their class, and they were struggling a bit, or they just want to make sure they've understood something. Then they can just go in, choose their course book and the level and the unit, and then all of the grammar points from our grammar bank of lessons will appear in the results table. So then they can just click on each one and they'll be able to preview the lesson, and then they can just set it to appear on their study page. Okay, so we talked about things like the visualization of data, for example, student progress graph. So all kind of graphs and reports can be produced using GeL reporting. So I'll explain some of the types of reports that you can produce, pretty much anything, to be honest. So here's an attendance bar chart showing a comparison between 2014 2013, only designating particular nationalities. So you can see here that a lot of this data wouldn't be on your platform, but with our GeL reporting it doesn't matter. You can get this from your class system or from your whatever school management system you're using, and you can pull that data into the report. So this is a feedback summary for a particular agent, so only students of that agent would have their feedback responses here, and then you can send that to the agent involved. You could get preferences of study before the student comes, so maybe you might have lots of students saying that they really need to practice on their number one preference is speaking and pronunciation, so you might want to think about setting up some kind of pronunciation class or speaking class. You can produce leaving certificates, end of course report forms. Notice here you can put in the student progress graph as well. So the way the reporting system works is that there are two modes. So you've got a creator mode which is like the design mode, if you like. So the creator mode is for creating the actual report template, and the runner mode is the simple mode, which is literally just finding the name of the report that you have, and then printing it or sending it to the student. So in order to design your own reports, you need to have someone at your school who's pretty proficient in Microsoft Access. Now, if I'm talking to most schools don't have someone like that at their school. If you do, great, and we can give them training in how to use Microsoft Access with our software. If you don't, then you can outsource it to a Microsoft Access expert. There are plenty of them online if you just put it into Google, or you can outsource it to us, and we would charge £70 per hour. Now, bear in mind that that's just a one-off cost, because once you've produced your particular report template, you're not going to need to go back and make another one. Because what we'll do is at the very beginning we'll spec it all out together to make sure it's exactly what you want. So the runner mode would enable, say for example, if it's an end of course report, the DOS could just go in to a plugin that we would send you, which looks a bit like this. And imagine if the DOS wanted to produce, say, a report for an agent on the feedback of particular students. They would just go into their plugin, go to the drop down box, click on the report that's been designed for them. So here it's got agent feedback summary, and we'd set up the reports for schools and DOSes to be able to enter certain fields. So here we'd set it up to make sure that the DOS enters the name of the agent and also sets the start and the end date. And then you'd produce your report. Now the benefits, the first benefit is that you can pull in data from outside your platform. So anything that you can export into a spreadsheet can go into the reports. So you could merge that as well with any data you've got on your platform. So imagine if you want to produce a feedback report, but you don't have attendance on the platform, then that's not a problem. As long as you export the attendance from your school management system into a spreadsheet, then we can put it into your report template. The second thing is that the new GeL reporting system is based on Microsoft Access. It's not a web page. So that means if you won't have any issues with what browser you're using. You won't have any kind of issues with print displays, with there being it's showing the name of a URL at the bottom. So you get a nice pretty PDF printout. Also, the design of the template is very, very flexible, so you can literally just designate if you want to use a pie chart or a bar chart. You can drag and drop logos and images into the report template. And as I said before, you can set up automated checking, so you can make sure that you give instructions to the user in the runner mode to enter the date ranges of those particular students, or enter the name of an agent, or give them instructions to pull in the spreadsheet, to upload the spreadsheets that you've exported from your school management system. So you can, if you go to the walkthrough section on our platform, you can see various scenarios, and these scenarios have come from myself liaising with schools, asking them what they would want to use reporting for. So if you click on the walkthrough, you'll come to this type of screen here. So you've got, for example, Adam, the Director of Studies, who wants to look at the student preferences report because he's thinking of opening up a new class at the school. You could have Jane, a teacher, who wants a report to see what results her students are getting in progress tests. You can have Laura, who needs to run end of course certificates. Emma, who needs to produce certificates on student responses to feedback questionnaires. You could have Andrew, the school principal, who needs to produce compliance reports for inspections. And also you've got the student who would like to get reports, for example, end of course reports and leaving certificates. So at the end of it, you'd come to a page like this. The student would have a home page showing their student progress graph. And then they could click on their documents section at the bottom. So if they clicked on certificate, they'd have your leaving certificate. If they clicked on end of course report, they'd have the nice pretty end of course reports template. So in order to set up these reports, as I said before, I would need to liaise with you to get all of the specifications of that report from the beginning, and then once we'd both agreed that that's exactly what you'd like, then we can send it to our Microsoft Access expert and we'll design that template for you. You'd probably be looking at about an hour to produce one template, but if it turned out that your request was a little bit odd, perhaps different from normal, then we would, and if we thought that we'd need more than an hour to create it, of course we would contact you first, just to get your authorization for us to proceed with creating that template. So happy to discuss. Here are my details. Contact me anytime.